The court is in session.
Welcome to WROL Broadcast. I am Hate Mail. With me today we have Loot. M4.
Hello, hello, hello.
Burger.
What's up, guys?
And this month's Siege winner, Hawkeye.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
And before we get rolling, let's get into the Toon of the Month. Siege Toon of the Month, that is. And Hawkeye, we'll let you do the honors first. Who did you think was the most impactful in Siege this month?
I think it's pretty easily Wally. I mean, out of every Toon, no matter whether you're going Cold lead, Red Hood lead, Wally was in every team. Opening with his 2 every match was, kind of the bread and butter of this Siege.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. Anybody have anyone other than Wally?
I have somebody that I used equally as much as Wally. Dr. Poison.
Yeah, I used her a lot. Not every single match, but quite a bit. Actually,
Which reminds me.
Yeah, we need to add her to this month.
Yep, and I want to talk about Supergirl too.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that now.
Yeah, put her on the list. We'll do a vote anyway and see what happens. Let's get into Wally first, since he is the Toon of the Month. I kept him as an A. I think his rework was successful. It bumped him up a notch with the awareness, but I didn't see a massive change. I still think he's pretty much... He was a lower A, and now he's a slightly higher A. Looks like we're pretty much A's across the board. Hawkeye, would you vote him an A as well, or...?
I'm sorry, who was that again?
Wally.
Wally, yeah, Wally's easily an A. Even outside of just his typical niche, he's going to be probably one of the better reworks we get this year, I imagine.
Anybody have any thoughts on him you'd like to share before we move on to the next character, since there isn't a whole lot to say about his rework?
The one thing I'm going to say is that his stock rose because of not just because of the rework, but because of Aquaman. I mean, those speed down people are now kind of kept at bay by Aquaman, and then now the speed up people are now back in.
Yeah, speed's always... Well, actually, the game's improved on. It's not as much about speed as it used to be, but it's still quite important.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is I really, and I think I said this earlier this month, like, I really like the fact that they incorporated evasion on him. To me, like, when you see... all the speed tunes out there, like, you see them evading constantly. So I really like that they started kind of incorporating that mechanic into speedsters.
Oh, it was there, just stuck before. So.
Yeah.
And Loot, you have him RB5, so I'll let you have final thoughts before we move on.
If I have to be totally honest, I was not thrilled because the old Wally and the new Wally is pretty much, it's almost the same thing. The one thing that I know that we had asked for, or at least I did, was on his 2, he should give the whole team awareness. That's one thing that I wanted, and that didn't happen, and there just wasn't a whole lot changed. And one of his moves where it's like, I think it's his 3, where it's 200% crit damage. For whatever reason, I can't hit a critical ever with his 3. It doesn't hurt the person. And I'm like, oh, that happens. But he's probably my favorite Toon in the game. I love using him. I just wish that they pushed him a little bit further. Maybe guaranteed crit or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think on his 2, if they had at least made it to where he was a selected awareness for the teammate rather than a random, I think that would have been enough to...
So, We tried. We tried making him even better than he is, but he's still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean that awareness is pretty awesome. So
It helps.
it helps. So let's move on to somebody who's not quite as awesome, but turned out okay. He definitely improved, I would say, and that is Captain Cold. And since you are a lover of Captain Cold, Hawkeye, and you took him to RB5 as well, what would you rank him with his rework?
I would probably put him as a high B. If you build around him, you can make him an A pretty easily. But, he's not really plug and play. You have to play to his strengths. He has great buff removal, which is awesome. They fixed the biggest issue, which was he was just so squishy before. Now he can actually take hits, especially when you put some RB crystals in him. It definitely helps.
You know who's a better Captain Cold than Captain Cold?
Who's that?
Superman. There's no gates on the stun. Hit anyone, he'll just punch them in the face. Sometimes they're not even stunned, they just die. That's why I thought alright, Captain Cold rework, let's go. And then I realized, why would I use him over Soups? They're basically doing the same thing. Hit my team, I'm gonna hit you back. But Soups' payoff is much more potent than Captain Cold.
The counterattack should have been 100% for the ally counterattack. That would have made it a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, he's a lot better, but he's still gonna compete against for a leader. There's a lot more much more better leader skills than his. So he's not bad, but he's got a lot of competition for the top spot.
The AoE
Maybe if he wasn't a leader and it was a passive, maybe he would be even better.
Crazy good. He would be crazy good.
Yeah, he'd be super good then.
When I saw him on the other team, like in the leader spot, those were matches I wasn't looking forward to as much. I feel like Red Hood was a lot better like on offense, but on defense, he turned that team into, a really big wild card.
Yeah, it did get a little hairy sometimes. And the AoE purge is not bad, but he's an okay character. He's just nothing to get. There's so many good greens, and you need to be exceptional to step in front of the pack.
Right. He's a B, not because he's bad, but because there's just so many others that are better than him.
Speaking of characters that people think are better than others, and that is Etrigan, who I gotta say, I was pretty disappointed in. In a sea of greens, you would think he would be like a great character. And granted, he was safe to use because you didn't really have many scary reds unless you were facing Dr. Poison. But I still felt like he was so lackluster. I couldn't vote anything above a C, personally. Luke, you agreed with me on C.
I agree with you 100%. In fact, there are cases where I would tell you that he is absolutely trash garbage. He is just not the same Etrigan from 2.5 years ago or however long ago when he was like really feared. He just didn't do anything. I couldn't even I brought him against a team of 4 greens, and I lost the match. Like, that shouldn't happen. Not with an S-tier Etrigan or whatever the hell people think he is. So, C at best.
M4, you actually bumped him up to a B from a C?
I know, I'm torn, but he's not that terrible. The only problem he has is that at turn 1, he's pretty useless because he will tickle you like a wet noodle. But once you get a kill, he's decent. So he can actually do something.
Remember, you were facing almost entirely teams of green, so...
That is true. And then...
So would you still give him a B outside of this siege?
Good point. Give him a B minus C. Fine. I'll go back to C. I'm being influenced here, guys, so I'm being
What
coerced.
M4 means to say is he's trash.
Burger, you also bumped him up to a B?
Yeah, but now that when he starts getting going, he starts ramping, like, he wrecks. He was definitely doing some damage. Like, there was only like probably 60% of the time that I lost a Toon, it was usually against an Etrigan that got loose and take out. I mean, like I had L5's Etrigans taking out my RB4 Savitar. And so, but I guess, you know, if I'm thinking about it like in normal day-to-day, like PvP and Wraith,
Yeah, he's not gonna do his work. I mean, Yara just wrecks out of the gate.
yeah, I'd make him
Right.
C also. You guys made a good point. Like I kept seeing him in raid or in siege when he would ramp and screw me up. But yeah,
Outside of it, yeah.
Hawkeye, what would be your grade on this one?
I would definitely put him as a C. I mean, it was a green heavy siege, and I mean, I used my Etrigan maybe 3 times the entire month. And then when he's on defense, you know, he's slower compared to everybody else when you have a Wally on your team. So even on defense, you know, you just apply a bunch of speed down to him, and he never gets a chance to get going. He's just Luke's definitely right. He's not the Etrigan he was, you know, 2 years ago or so.
I wonder right now how angry Joshua is. He loves him some Etrigan.
I don't know if he's gonna get any mad than he already is.
Does he love him a lot?
Oh yeah,
He rebirth 2, I think.
he's
So that means
Yeah.
Etrigan is total trash. We're throwing him in the trash bin. Yeah.
him and Arcus. He loves those two characters. Next up, we have Mr. Mirror Master. Burger, you gave him a B. It looks like we're keeping him as a B from previous months.
yeah. I mean, I think since his rework was obviously a while ago, but ever since then, like he's okay. He was decent in the siege to be able to, you know, apply invisibility. You know, he hit pretty decent. But yeah, I don't think he's a team that he's not somebody that I would say, hey, I can just build a team, you know, around him to do something. So yeah, I'd put B.
How about you, Loot?
I actually really like Mirror Master. I think he's a solid B. If I had him like Rebirth, he would probably even be better than a B. He hits pretty hard. I like his invisibility shield thing, and I like that like you can like help the character that's in trouble and like hide them and give him a shield. So I found him to be really useful. Just had to be careful, like, and make sure I didn't bring him against the wrong enemy, and then it would be fine.
I had a hard time giving him a B. I almost gave him a C, but he's just good. I mean, he does just enough with the invisibility, the purge. His damage is a little on the low side, but he can definitely lock a Toon down once you have like just one character less, and you don't want to worry about him. But I don't know. I don't find him to be too compelling. How about you, Hawkeye? What would you give him?
He was actually the reason I lost one revenge this month, and it was really just I misplayed it. I went against an Aquaman. I threw his 3 down against Aquaman, and Aquaman doesn't like having his turn meter turned down, obviously. But I mean, Luke really just nailed it. I mean, one of his biggest things is just being able to hide teammates when they get into trouble. There are so many times this month where, you know, I'd throw up the shield and invisibility on Savitar or Captain Cold when they got into trouble to help beef them up and make them survive. So I would definitely say a B, probably middle to low B, not on the upper end. But, you know, one thing, if he ever got reworked, I'd want to look at is maybe on his 2 also purging some debuffs.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Which wouldn't be excessive at all. M4, any other comments on him?
The one comment I have for Mirror Master is now that he has 4 friends, get him going. Invisibility is making a comeback with Nightwing, and then speed downs. Captain Cold rework obviously makes it easier for him to hit his passive gates. So not that he's any better, but now he has more friends to work with to get his kit going. So he's still B for me.
Next on the list, we have one of the new Toons, which is Peacemaker. I think I like him a little more than most. I did take him.
Like RB5 like.
Yeah, I took him to RB4. I will be taking him to RB5 probably around the time this episode comes out. He is pretty solid. I mean, he's not the Spectre answer we all hope for. So once you lower the bar that he's not going to just be a Spectre dominator, he's actually pretty solid. His 3 does a lot more damage than his basic. So counting on his counterattack isn't great. I originally didn't ring his 2. I still haven't, but I'm leaning strongly towards ringing it. I want to test him at RB5 first just to make sure that he isn't able to counter. The only thing is I noticed that when I use his 2, he gets damage immunity damage immunity almost every single time. So I'm like, well, I might as well get the strength ups at that point. But that damage immunity actually does really well against characters you're trying to keep him alive against.
I'm gonna say he needs it.
Yeah. He's a little squishy. He's not terrible once he's high rebirth. But the 3 does really good damage. I mean, I've had matches where I've nuked even greens when it crits.
Yes, he needs to crit. His main problem is the inconsistency of the damage. And I know people are saying, like, oh, don't gear the 2 because he won't retaliate. But his retaliation damage sucks. Well, I guess the purge works.
Yeah, the purge is useful.
But he's going to die. He just dies. I used him a lot the other day just to see so I can rate him properly. And he's not terrible. He's one of the better purgers, especially as a red. But yeah, I'm not gonna rely on that counter attack. He loves to get hit, but he's not gonna take many.
I just found he fit my teams really well because I tend to lack a red that has a lot of utility that can do enough damage to deal with Spectre. Spectre and Wonder Girl are really the only characters that I have a hard time with when I want to play my big fat green Superman, Hawkgirl type teams, and he solves a lot of those problems. So,
and I'm gonna say this: he does 2 things very well. One is counter Nightwing.
Yeah, he's really good against
He's always
Nightwing.
Has awareness, and then he can like purge quite a few, 4 to be precise, and then he does it often enough. And the other thing is if you slot him in the second spot on your team, and then Spectre for some reason loves to just stun him.
Yeah,
it's beautiful to see that it does nothing to him. It's like, okay, come on, hit me some more.
He does purge all the strength ups, which is annoying. But at least he's not stunned, so he's still usable. He's also really good against Martian Manhunter teams, so I find that to be pretty useful as well. So I mean, I give him he's a solid B in my mind.
Yeah.
Hawkeye.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so, I mean, I don't see him, like, as a strong Spectre counter. Just, I mean, everything he has, like, his 3, it just screams, like, going after Nightwing. And, being able to avoid all the awareness and Nightwing stacks, removing invisibility from everybody else right at the beginning of the match. Like, to me, he's, like, more of a Nightwing counter. So, WB, we still need a Spectre counter.
That AoE purge is mighty useful, though. I will say, in a lot of cases. So, Hawkeye, you didn't like him as much as the rest of us.
No. I mean, he really suffers from expectations for the most part. We all kind of expected him to be the Spectre counter, like you guys have kind of touched on already. But he's just not. He's not what you're looking for in that department. He's probably a B tier if you judge him just in what he is, and rather than what you think he is supposed to be. If you're judging him based off of what you're expecting, a Spectre counter, he's probably trash at that point. But as far as like his kit and how its actual utility, I would say he's a B for sure.
I would say trash is a strong word because he's better at dealing with Spectre than most Reds that can't one-shot him. So.
And don't forget to watch the show on HBO Max.
I've heard it's really good, and I haven't seen it yet.
It actually is really good.
I mean, I've heard from everyone that it's really, really good. So
that's pretty funny.
So he gives a B. Loot, you didn't gear him yet, correct?
I just geared him. I haven't tried him yet. I'm just going to use him in the raid, I would imagine.
Yeah, we'll see if he might. I really don't know.
Maybe.
He might-
does get
I
strength
geared
ups.
him for the raid, so we'll see.
He might.
So
The
speaking of
Superboy
raids,
Prime buff.
any you guys see everybody's betting to.
Yeah, so but this will come out after raids most likely, or right as raids are about to end. But there is
Bounty.
a bounty,
There's a bounty.
and it's gotten up to $600 already.
Whoa.
It just popped another 200.
Yeah, I heard WRL
6 hours
donated.
of 5.
WRL donated $100 to this. What were they thinking?
Oh my God.
And so did Bullseye.
Why?
And Hawkeye donated $100 to us. So.
Why?
Well, it's easy to donate money when you know that they're not going to pay it out. Like they should just be like, "Hey, go give $10,000 if somebody wins."
Owl's putting bounties on their own head.
No. It's not fair.
And I hate raids too. Like I'm like, why am I doing this? But I feel like as a pillar of the community, WRL needed to take part, especially since that dirty AAD group did. So.
Oh no, they did too.
You're at 38.
Oh yeah. I'm actually hosting their podcast this week.
I wouldn't even be surprised if it gets up to $1,000.
Oh yeah. There's gonna be more people. It's growing quickly. Oh well. It'll be interesting. Keeps the game exciting. It's been a couple months, so we'll see what happens. All right, let's move on to Red Hood, who I have to say, go first on this one. I was so impressed with him this siege. Like I forgot how good he is. In a green heavy siege, I forgot how good he is, and I had to bump him back to an S. I think he has to be S tier. I mean, yeah, you can bring faster tunes, so Martian Manhunter and Cheetah invalidate him, and so does B12, but you could say that about a lot of characters. Outside of that, he's insane. Insanely good. Burger, I see you bumped him to S as well.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, when I kind of was looking at him, I mean, I know I'll probably get a little bit of heat for this, but I know Dr. Poison's generally probably considered like one of the, best like bleeders, right? But I actually kind of feel like he might be the best bleeder in the game. I mean, really strong leader skill, helping to control the match. I mean, he really does a lot of good things in his kit. And, I honestly, like before this, like I probably only used him like if there was like a PvE day that he was required. But I really started liking him and started thinking about like if I need to try to take him RB4 because that's really the pinnacle.
The Burger, I think Dr. Poison is the worst bleeder in the game.
I'm saying bleeder.
Yeah, I said bleeder.
Oh.
Because Dr. Poison is lousy at applying bleeds because she kills them and they don't actually bleed. They just die.
I like her one where she, avoids or ignores any type of immunity and still places it.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about her here shortly because she's on the list. So, Loot, you also gave him an S.
Yeah, Red Hood's awesome. His leader skill is really strong. What I like most is if you can get a kill, you can control the turn meter.
Oh, it's over if you get the kill.
If you can just kill one person, they're not getting a turn anymore. So, he's phenomenal.
Hawkeye.
I actually bumped him up from RB3 to RB5, and I don't regret it. I think it was a great decision, and I think he's a strong S tier character.
Hawkeye, what would you rate Red Hood?
I was actually leaning A, but listening to you guys discuss it, I think S is definitely the way to go. He's the best red leader in the game as far as I'm concerned. And, I think that kind of automatically should put you in the running for being an S tier if you're the best leader of your affinity.
You make a good argument. M4, you disagree?
I don't know. Nightwing may want to have a word with Jason on that. I don't know if you guys are just falling to the recency bias because, in a siege where he's the best leader, I can see him like S tier. We bumped him down to an A tier because you still need to get that kill. And in this siege, the kill is easy to get. Outside of it, how often do we get those one-hit kills? And he still has to compete for that leader spot. So there's the Supermans and who else? Even Nightwing is very good at protecting the team. In this offensive siege where there are no taunters, you can just see how great he is when you can get that first kill.
Yeah, but even when there was taunters in the siege, I still used him.
I suppose you can Dr. Poison everything, but then again, at that point, you already won. I mean, I can see. I don't mind him being S tier again.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just kind of stingy today. I don't know.
Well, you got 2 new people you added that you want to S tier up, so we'll get to those in a moment. Moving on to Red Robin, who we'll start with you, Burger. Any change?
Yeah, I think he's a strong control toon. He gets annoying, but I'll be honest, I probably used him 5 times ever in the game. But, the times that I did use him, like I think 4 of those times were this siege. But, he's very strong control toon outside of lead. And, just was really annoying at times. And he can, wreak havoc on the other team. So that's why I put him A.
Yeah, I left him A. Solid character. He enjoyed S tier for a little while at one point, but there's been a lot of characters that came out since then. M4, you still an A?
Yeah, still an A. He used to be S when he was like a fast toon, but now he's kind of like you're no longer fast. That's just like slightly faster than the rest of the cast, but too slow to get things going. I mean, if there was no Wally, it's not gonna work, right?
Yeah. Well, he was useful for speeding up Dr. Poison ahead of everybody, but.
Yeah.
So, Hawkeye, what would be your vote on Red Robin?
Well, I took him RB5 this month, so he's definitely A. He's really borderline S tier for me. He was so useful this siege in stopping Wally from evading everything. If you're able to get the buff immunity on him early on, it definitely made matches less of a pain when you use Red Robin against Wally. But just being able to get around taunters, the buff immunity, he just does so many things really well, especially when he's paired with, Jason there. Being able to have that invisible ally makes a big difference for him. But definitely an A, borderline S in my opinion.
All right, now let's move to the other new toon where we seem to have a split decision. So, Burger, you have Savitar as a B. I also agree with you on that B. What's your logic behind the B?
He hits hard on his 3, no doubt. I love the fact that he, removes the, positive immunities whenever he, from the other team. So I love that. He did pretty well. He's fast. He's a speedster. Hits pretty hard with his 3. Hits, applies shield and heals himself with the 2. I actually really liked him. And there was a couple times, even facing low leveled ones, that it was a pain. You'd have to worry if he retaliated, he could absolutely wreck a couple tunes if he happens to crit when he does that. But that being said, I don't think he's amazing, but I absolutely think he can plug into a lot of teams and do some damage.
Yeah, I agreed with you. I gave him a B as well. His 3 does more damage than I expected. I like that he has an AoE on his basic. Even though it doesn't do a ton of damage, it gets around the invisible tunes or the characters that hide behind things or you need to get rid of awareness. He just seemed like a decent character. I don't think he's a great character. I think he's like a mid-level B, but he seemed pretty solid to me. M4, you gave him a C?
I guess he's so inconsistent with the damage on his 3. I know Burger, you say he does big damage, because I don't know how long you played with him at L5, but at L4, L5...
He had him L5 the day it came out.
Yeah, and then...
then once the sale came out, it wasn't right away. It took 2 weeks, because I was going to go...
Did it? Okay. All right, so you have decent usage at L5, but he's still inconsistent. And if you're... he's a B if you're facing speedsters, but if not, then but most of the time he's a C to me. His damage is pathetic sometimes, and every time when someone does damage and you go, "Whoa, he did damage," that's probably telling you something because when Doctor Poison does it, it's like, okay, she did her job. But when he does it, like, oh, he did it this time, great. But most of the time, he does it. So you still need that speedster to get the turn meter. So, because you're not gonna kill with him, and if you're not gonna get the kill with him, you'd much rather have someone else, a better nuke, right? Because you're probably just gonna use the Wally or I don't know, what's faster, Impulse, and then he gets his turn. And then he's probably not gonna kill. So use some other AoE nuke. And his basic.
You need to sweet talk him though. Like if you sweet talk him or sing to him while you're playing with him, he does better.
Well, once in a while,
I really
he's gonna
need to do that.
surprise you. It's like he's gonna crit and then ruin the enemy team, and then like the next match, he's like, okay, oh, he did that, 3,000 damage. Okay.
Mine was never
But yeah.
inconsistent. I mean, I had him L5 the entire siege, and like, or as soon as whenever his 6 day or whatever his event started, I took him L5.
Chasing
right away.
him though is a different story because every time you buff, he gets even buffer than you, and it's like, oh, run. He better not go. But when I use him, it's like I go first, and he hits like a wet noodle.
Just don't go first all the time. Luke, what
That's what she said.
you agree with M4 on the C rating?
Yeah, I just agree with him the whole way through. The thing about Savitar is using him and facing him are completely different. Or at least it was for me. Using him, it was like, Facing him, it was scary. There were times where his AoE just killed my team. So, but I couldn't do that to the other team. But it was very lopsided for me. On defense, he could be really scary. On offense, I think he's pretty bad.
Hawkeye, you're the tiebreaker. What would you give him?
I hate to break your guys' heart, but I'm going to go C. His damage is very inconsistent. Like M4 said, if you're going against a speedster team, he's definitely a B tier at that point. But just on his own, he's a C tier. And one thing you liked about him, Hate, I actually didn't like, is that his basics in AoE. That actually came really close to getting me into some trouble this siege, where I had to use his basic, and there was a Red Hood barely clinging on to life, and the other team had a Spectre. And having to use his AoE at that point was not ideal. Luckily for me, the Spectre just didn't trigger. But it just wasn't the best situation for me personally. I was a little bit disappointed in him and Peacemaker's damage both overall. Both are very inconsistent.
All right, moving on. Dr. Poison. We decided to revisit her. We previously had her as an A tier. I think we did the community a disservice by giving her A tier, and after this siege especially, and I think last siege, maybe the siege before that, she is the best nuke in the game, probably better than anyone. I mean, is there any nuke better than her?
Yeah.
Against everything? I mean, I can't even tell you how many matches that she murdered greens. Blues and reds are guaranteed. Reds.
There's only 2 counters, really.
Yeah.
Kyle, Jordan, and Tara.
Yeah,
If
I
you
mean,
don't have them, you're going to lose.
yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what we were thinking. So I definitely bumped her to S. M4, I see you bumped her to S as well.
Yeah.
Did you vote? Did we? I think, what was our logic last time? Just because Terra exists?
Well, I think it was, we were just saying she was just like a one-trick pony, just
Yeah.
that hard hit. But I don't know, like I used her in Nightmare Challenge, Nightwing, Spectre, Grodd, and her, and I mean, I beat the last note on auto. I mean, she just hits so hard, especially as she started to stack like intelligence ups and stuff. Like she wrecked shop. But yeah, I mean, we absolutely looked at it wrong. I think the first time having her one where it ignores positive immunities and
The heal's good,
still
too.
for the leads. So sorry, go on.
Loot, what would you vote her?
She's an S tier. She might even be one of, I don't know, top 3 tunes in the game.
Hawkeye?
S tier easy.
Yeah, I don't know. Our S tier list has grown considerably this week. Yeah, we were wrong on that one. There's just no getting around that one. Supergirl wanted to be added to the list. M4, you added her, so I'll let you begin. You want to bump her up?
Yes, all right. So we all know that she's good at protecting your team. Crit. Whenever you crit, she gets those stamina ups, their meter up. But the other thing that makes her really good is that AoE basic, no red is safe. Like, no red. Even if it's an L5 Supergirl, she hits twice. Even RB5 reds will die. So she's a good defensive and offensive Toon. Maybe one of them.
Burger, you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. She's pretty damn annoying to face. You have to go into it with a plan and try not to piss her off, or she's gonna wreck shop.
Loot, what would you give her?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't used her.
Ye-
So I really can't vote.
Hawkeye, what would you say?
I hate that you guys have me on this one tier list where we're bumping everybody up to S's, but I definitely agree with the S. I've had to face her a couple times. I went back and forth with the boy who has their RB5, and I bring my Artemis and my Azrael, who are both RB5, and just poof, they're gone. Just ridiculous damage off of it. It almost is guaranteed to hit twice every time. There's just no reason for it not to be S tier. He's got one of, the top 5 most powerful moves in the game, I feel like.
Especially under Darkseid when she does it 4 times. It's just so stupid.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Or Nightwing, and then the other thing about that is when she's the only character I've noticed in this game that when she gets the affinity stacks, she makes it so that characters just randomly do no damage sometimes. Which
It's the crit damage down. So when they crit, they do no damage.
Oh, that's right.
And then she also stacks those stamina up, so she's hard to kill.
I will agree on S tier after I keep thinking about pulling the trigger on RB5ing her because I have the shards and she's just so freaking good. The most annoying team in the game to face right now in my mind is that Darkseid, Supergirl, Terra, Spectre team. That team is annoying.
Yeah, I have it full RB5.
Yeah, it's so annoying. And then if you get it in red alerts and you've lost a character, it becomes nearly impossible to beat. I can't remember. Was one of you guys that went through like your whole roster against it?
That was me.
Yeah, I thought so. I knew it was one of you guys.
So I'll say I use Nightwing, Wonder Girl, Azrael, and Terra, and that it handles that team pretty well.
Yeah, I've found a few that do well against it, but the first time I ran across it, that was one of the hardest teams I faced in Wraith in a long time. And then if I'm just like kind of plugging along and then I press battle before I realize what I'm facing, if you don't have a very good team set up for it, it's frightening. Yeah, I think people are going to be like, what? Where did all these S tiers come from? But, we probably...
Should we do one day where we look at all the S tiers and see if we need to trim it?
Yeah, I think we did that. How long ago was that, M4? It was a while, though.
It's been a while. We did the culling.
Yeah, we did a little bit of culling. We might have over-culled, I think it's a problem, but it definitely is worth... Maybe we'll revisit it. One thing I've talked about doing for a long time, and I don't know when I'll do it, I really want to do kind of an around the affinities, like do all the greens in one episode, all the blues in another, and like have 60 seconds jointly, like all of us. We have 60 seconds to talk about a tune and move on. It would still take a long time, but I think break it into 3 episodes. Do one, do another.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think it'd be fun. We couldn't have a ton of people. There could only be like 3 of us maybe, because there's no way. Or we would all just kind of before the show pick who we want to talk about, and then like you have 30 seconds, and then like one other person can do a quick comment. I don't know. There's an idea. I think people would enjoy it because there's a lot of characters that don't ever get love.
Right. That's one of the complaints about the tier list, the WROL tier list, is because some of the votes are so old.
Yeah.
They're outdated. So that would force us to look at Toons.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be fun. So that's an idea.
I think there'll be a lot of trash tunes.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's a reason that they don't ever get mentioned. Like I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I was going through the ratings the other day. I think most of them are pretty accurate. I mean, you might be able to argue up or down, like a B or a C type of thing, but there's really not a big difference between B and C tunes. I mean, it's why we got rid of D, because it just gave too much. But all right, I think that is everybody. Hawkeye, we appreciate you being the tiebreaker.
Not a problem. Happy to be here.
Might have to have you on more frequently as you join the rotations. And you've been doing the tunes, so you've been a good Burger Shack candidate. The Hawk's Nest.
Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely skipping next month. I got to get some slow gears going. So, but the rest of the year, I think I'm probably going to get them at least to L2 or L3.
A Burger's set up for a little while, right? You got your slow gears.
Yeah, I have Garth and Kyle, so
That's good. Yeah.
Ooh, you need to add
I'm
one.
really looking forward to Kyle, though.
Oh, you have Kyle slow geared?
Yeah, White Lantern. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
It might be. Anyway, you have Darkseid. You'll be fine.
yeah, he's really good for raids, but it's his problem.
But you have Darkseid. I mean, we've
I didn't have him
survived
last
without him
raid.
for like months. Yeah, so it didn't matter, right?
Yeah, Darkseid just does it. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see how these raids turn out with the gigantic bounty that keeps growing.
Yeah, every time I see it, I pee a little bit. I'm really scared.
So, this is getting ugly.
It's awkward going through 3 pairs of underwear already in the last 3 hours.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
For anyone still learning how to be an adult, if cheese has mold on it, you should throw it out. You can also become an adult by becoming a Patreon. Become a Patreon today and get special perks like Patreon-only episodes, early reviews, and content based on your requests. Just go to patreon.com/WROL broadcast.